One can poison you with 4 raw seeds. One bred the cyanide out of itself over generations. One got a philosopher to ban his own followers from eating it. Kidney bean. 4 or 5 raw beans can put you in the hospital within hours. It's the bean in every bowl of chili, named for its curved, thick shape. Raw or undercooked kidney beans contain a toxin called phytohemagglutinin, and it doesn't take much. As few as 4 or 5 raw beans can cause violent vomiting and cramping within hours. Here's the part most people get wrong. Throwing dry kidney beans straight into a slow cooker isn't safe. Slow cookers hold a temperature that's perfect for keeping food warm, and perfect for leaving the toxin completely intact. It never gets hot enough to break it down. The fix is boiling them vigorously for at least 30 minutes before they go anywhere near low heat. In Jamaica, properly cooked kidney beans get simmered in coconut milk for rice and peas, a dish that's been part of the culture for generations. But the next bean on this list used to be loaded with actual cyanide. Lima bean. The version on your plate is the result of generations of farmers slowly breeding poison out of a plant. Named after Lima, Peru, where it's been cultivated for thousands of years. Most people know it as the bean kids refuse to eat, but that reputation comes from decades of it being boiled plain with 0 seasoning. Done right, it's buttery and rich. Wild lima beans contain linamarin, a compound that releases cyanide when the beans are raw or undercooked, enough to genuinely hurt you. Every lima bean sold in a supermarket today exists because farmers spent generations selecting plants with less and less of that compound, picking out the dangerous ones year after year until what's left is the mild, safe version most people have no idea used to be a risk at all. You're eating the end result of centuries of quiet, deliberate domestication every time you open a bag. The next bean on this list got a philosopher to ban it outright. Fava bean. Eating the wrong bean can make your own blood cells start destroying themselves. Fava beans rank among the oldest farmed plants on Earth, cultivated around the Mediterranean for at least 10,000 years. In ancient Greece and Rome, people voted with them. A white bean meant yes, a black bean meant no. But for some people, mostly with roots in the Mediterranean or Middle East, eating favas can trigger a condition called favism. It comes down to a missing piece of body chemistry, an enzyme deficiency that causes red blood cells to break down after eating the bean. According to legend, that risk is part of why the Greek philosopher Pythagoras banned his own followers from eating beans entirely, thousands of years before anyone understood the actual biology behind it. A vote-counting tool and a deadly allergy sitting in the same seed. But the next bean on this list didn't just feed people, it fed an entire navy. Black bean. The same exact bean got invented twice, by 2 civilizations that never met. It's part of the common bean family, grown across the Americas for thousands of years. Shiny and dark on the outside, but slice one open and the inside is a pale, creamy color, which catches people off guard every time. Here's what most breakdowns skip entirely. The common bean was domesticated independently in 2 completely different places, once in Mesoamerica, once in South America. 2 ancient civilizations, separated by thousands of miles, both landing on the exact same plant by accident. Packed with protein and fiber with an almost meaty bite to it. In Cuba, Brazil, and Mexico, it isn't a side dish, it's the main event on the plate. But the next bean on this list hides its real danger behind a mistranslation. Pinto bean. The dish you call refried beans was never actually fried twice. Pinto means painted in Spanish, and raw pinto beans really do look painted. Tan with reddish-brown streaks splattered across the surface. Cook them and those markings disappear completely, fading into a solid pinkish brown. It's a strong contender for America's favorite bean, and it's the bean mashed into most refried beans you've ever eaten. The Spanish name is frijoles refritos, which actually translates to well-fried, not fried twice.
Somewhere in translation, it became refried in English, and that single word shift made an entire country believe these beans go through the fryer 2 separate times. They don't. Pintos grow well in dry heat, turn soft and creamy, and soak up spices better than almost any other bean on this list. The next bean on this list has been quietly funding one of the most powerful dining rooms in the country, navy bean. This bean has been served in the United States Senate dining room for over 100 years. It got its name from the U.S. Navy, which loaded it onto ships by the ton throughout the 1800s because it's stored almost indefinitely. The flavor is mild enough to vanish into anything, which is exactly why it's the bean inside classic baked beans and the canned beans Brits pour over toast every morning. Here's the part nobody expects. Navy bean soup has been a tradition on the Senate dining room menu for over a century. Served to some of the most powerful people in the country, made from one of the cheapest beans on the shelf, in a government cafeteria. It also breaks down naturally as it cooks, thickening any soup it's added to without any extra work. But the next item on this list isn't even technically a pea. Black-eyed pea. Confederate soldiers thought this crop was only good for animals, and that mistake saved entire Southern families from starving. Despite the name, it's not a pea at all. It's a type of cowpea, with one dark spot on its side that looks exactly like an eye staring back at you. The plant originated in West Africa and crossed to the American South through the slave trade, sinking deep into Southern food culture from there. During the Civil War, soldiers reportedly overlooked these fields entirely, assuming the crop was only fit for livestock. That assumption is exactly what let many Southern families survive the winter on a bean nobody thought was worth stealing.
People still eat it every New Year's Day for luck, usually folded into Hoppin' John with rice and pork. Its wild cousin, the yard-long bean, takes the same plant family and stretches the pod nearly 3 feet long. A green bean on steroids, grown for the pod instead of the seeds. But the next bean on this list got reinvented overnight by a liquid people used to pour down the drain. Chickpea. The liquid you've been throwing away from every can now whips up exactly like egg whites. Some people call it the garbanzo bean. Humans have been growing it for around 12,000 years in what's now Turkey and the Middle East. It's the entire base of hummus, and chickpea flour runs through breads and sweets across India. Around 2014, something changed overnight. That cloudy liquid drained from a can of chickpeas got a name, aquafaba, and bakers discovered it whips into stiff peaks just like egg whites. Vegan baking flipped almost instantly. A byproduct that used to go straight down the sink became the backbone of egg-free meringue worldwide.
There are 2 main types, the big, pale kabuli most people picture, and the small, dark desi, which is actually more common globally than the version most Americans know. But the next bean on this list, you've already eaten without realizing it. Mung bean. You've eaten this bean dozens of times and had no idea it was a bean at all. Sprout it in water for a few days, and it becomes the crunchy bean sprout piled into stir fries and spring rolls. It's been a staple across India, China, and Southeast Asia for at least 4,000 years, sitting at about a quarter protein. Here's what makes it more useful than it looks. It contains something rice doesn't. Pair rice and mung beans together, and you get a more complete protein than either food provides on its own. A combination cultures figured out millennia before anyone understood amino acids.
Across much of Asia, it doubles as dessert too, boiled into a sweet paste that fills mooncakes and dumplings. And it's even treated as a cooling food, eaten in hot weather for relief. But the next bean on this list is treated like candy in 3 different countries. Adsuki bean. 3 entire countries treat this bean like dessert instead of dinner. Across Japan, China, and Korea, the small red Adsuki gets eaten mostly as a sweet, which flips every assumption Westerners carry about what a bean is supposed to be. It's boiled down with sugar into a thick red paste called anko, the filling packed inside red bean buns, mochi, and pancakes by the millions. It's slightly sweet even before any sugar gets added, almost as if it was built specifically for dessert. Red is considered a lucky color across the region, which is why red rice made with Adsuki shows up at birthdays and weddings.
Genetic research published in 2025 traced its first domestication to central Japan before it spread into China, pushing the bean's origin story back further than anyone assumed. But the next bean on this list carries the same hidden toxin as kidney beans, and almost nobody knows it. Canellini bean. This is basically a white kidney bean, and it carries the same risk if you skip the boil. It's bigger, smoother, and the favorite of Italian cooking, especially in Tuscany, where locals have been nicknamed the bean eaters for centuries because they put cannellini into nearly everything. It holds its shape better than smaller white beans, which makes it ideal for soups and salads where you want the bean to stay whole. Here's the part that gets skipped. Canellini carries some of the same toxin found in kidney beans, which means it needs a proper boil too, not a slow simmer. A classic, simple way to serve it is just good olive oil, salt, and fresh herbs.
Nothing fancy required. Creamy inside, slightly firm skin, no meat needed anywhere near it. The last bean on this list doesn't grow above ground at all. It buries itself like treasure. Bambara groundnut. This bean drills itself into the dirt to finish growing, completely out of sight. It comes from West Africa, named after the Bambara people of Mali, and ranks as the 3rd most important bean on the continent, behind only the peanut and the cowpea. After its flowers get pollinated, the plant's stalks actually bend downward and push into the soil, so the beans finish ripening buried in the dark, hidden like treasure nobody's looking for. Researchers call it a near-complete food. Protein, carbs, and fat all packed into one tough little seed. So tough, it has to be boiled soft, roasted, or ground into flour just to make it edible at all. 12 beans. A bean that survived a philosopher's ban. A bean that fed a navy. A bean that fooled an entire country with a mistranslation. And one that hides underground like it's guarding something. And that's every bean explained.